On today's Andy and Ari on 3, LSU coach Brian Kelly defends Florida coach Billy Napier ahead of their matchup on Saturday night in Death Valley. Is Kelly empathizing with a fellow coach in a similar position, or does he just want Billy Napier to coach Florida forever? We ask the hard questions. Also, Matt Rhule halftime speech leaked. We'll talk about what Matt Rhule said and why it means Nebraska is on the right track as a program. Plus, is there a new starting quarterback at Colorado? We'll talk about that and much more on today's edition of Andy and Ari on 3. We have teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. When you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code CFB, as in college football, CFB, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how that works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code CFB. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code CFB when you sign up. Make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary with BetMGM. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers are not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in the U.S., call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. Call 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. Call 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa or 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code CFB and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Welcome to Andy and Ari on 3. Going to be a fun week, fun weekend. We've got all kinds of great games. We picked them yesterday. One of the games we picked, Ari and I were different sides of it. It's a tough, weird spread. It's a weird game. Florida at LSU. Florida coming off the loss to USF. LSU has beaten Clemson. Did not look particularly great in the game against Louisiana Tech. But this is the SEC opener for both teams. Billy Napier's on the ropes. Brian Kelly seems to have his team where he wants it. And that's why I thought it was interesting that Brian Kelly stepped in on Monday to defend Billy Napier, to defend the job Billy Napier is doing. I think, for the Florida fans, they're pretty much out. But where is Brian Kelly on this situation? I thought what he said was interesting because he should be able to empathize. He's in a very similar situation. Ari, were you surprised that Brian Kelly leaped to Billy Napier's defense?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is a brotherhood amongst coaches. And it's funny now because Brian Kelly is out of it. But, we are, one possession away from him also being on, in the hot seat. And I don't mean the hot seat in that he would be fired, but just having to answer tough questions, right? And I think that coaches are sympathetic to their peers when they're in that position because they have an appreciation for how hard the job is, and they don't want to be in that position either. I think it's kind of a weird time because I thought we were getting heel Brian Kelly after he jabbed a little at Dabo last week. But, I took it as two ways. One, we're in a fraternity of coaches. We're going to look out for each other. Two, we're playing against Florida, a team that everybody's making fun of this week. And if we lose to them, which I think is a distinct possibility, the line is moving in the opposite direction. You don't want it to look as bad. I thought it was a framing attempt to, reallocate in the right direction some resources or thought of what's rational here. And I was not surprised to see this at all. Were you?
I was a little bit surprised. Also because he mentioned Ed Orgeron in it. And I was talking to somebody who covers LSU, and they said they think this is the first time he has mentioned Ed Orgeron in a press conference by name. And it's not like that's not a huge deal. It's just in the dynamics of that situation, I find it interesting. And maybe I read too much into all of these things, but I just thought it was really interesting. Producer River, I believe we have the clip because it was Brian Kelly gets asked about Billy Napier and about Billy Napier's situation, because obviously he is on the ropes once again. He was on the ropes last season, and certainly after the USF loss, very much in danger of losing that job.
Yeah, but I know that LSU is also like feeling really good about itself, Andy. That's a good way to put it. Hot seat, the way I put it was probably not the right way, but like on the ropes, like Brian Kelly isn't out of the woods from being on the ropes, by the way. Like I know that they're feeling good about the Clemson win, and rightfully so. A lot of people feel like they're one of the three best teams in college football right now, but if they drop a few of these games in the first half of the season somehow, and they're sitting at 2 losses with a pretty tough schedule on the back half, he's going to be on the ropes too. He's not immune from being on the ropes.
Right, exactly, because I think LSU justifiably has a higher standard at the moment than Florida does, because LSU had a national title in 2019. They had a national title in 2007. They had a national title in 2003. And I realize Florida does have 06 and 08. But the fact that LSU did it in 19 in recent memory makes their situation extremely different than Florida's.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember. Was it it was 2 years after LSU won the national title that Orgeron was out, right? Was it 2 years?
It was 2 years. It was 2021, yeah.
So it wasn't quite as drastic as what we saw at some other places. Auburn fired a national championship coach like a year after in Gene Chizik. So but the standard at LSU is very high even after you win a title. So imagine what the standard is. We talk about this idea of goodwill or, equity in your position and everything that you can do from a winning standpoint to, get the benefit of the doubt, to get that equity within the fan base. And LSU grew tired of Ed Orgeron very quickly after they assembled maybe one of the, 4 best college football teams of all time. Think about how quickly the clock ran out on that.
Yeah.
And Brian Kelly is on year 4 now, and they're 2-0 and they feel good and they beat Clemson. But if they don't make the SEC championship game this year, or they stumble and finish 9-3 again or whatever, on the ropes is exactly where he's going to be. And I think he can sympathize with that situation because he's not immune or ignorant to his situation. He didn't come into this season thinking that, everybody was happy with him. Like, he knows the score. I think he's happy with his team. I think he thinks that it can be a really good team, but I know that I'm sure he gets a pit in his stomach, thinking about what could go wrong if you turn the ball over in the red zone a few times in a game, or, your defense has a few breakdowns. Like it how quickly it turns, and Baton Rouge probably quickly faster than others.
It can turn as quick as if Billy Napier gets off the ropes and beats them this week, because Billy Napier beat them last year. So that's probably where Brian Kelly's head's at. But let's play the clip. So Brian Kelly gets asked about Billy Napier. Here's his response.
So Billy Napier, I know you have some experience playing against him. I'm wondering, I'm asking this in the context of, a lot of people calling for his head down there. You don't have to comment on that, but I would welcome it.
Crazy.
But
craziness.
But what have you learned about him as a coach, and what are your impressions?
He's a really good football coach. He knows his team. He knows what their strengths and weaknesses are. You can see it on film. He's building a culture that is fit to his eye in terms of what he wants to do. He's doing it his way. And that's awesome. I think that, look, I came in here, right, and Ed was here. He won a national championship, right? But he did it his way, right? It was his way, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the way they wanted to make a change. I do it my way. It takes time to put in your philosophy and the way you like to do things. I do them a lot different than Ed does. But he still won. Right? They asked for a change. I came. It takes time to make that change. And it's the same thing with Billy. Billy's come in after 2 or 3 other head coaches that changed the way the other coaches did it. And now he's starting to stabilize that program. So people talk about whatever they want. It's crazy. It takes you what it takes. And he'll get that thing where he wants it. I think he's got it right now. They beat us last year. So, again, we need to worry about us, and that's what we do. I worry about what we do on a day-to-day basis and make sure we're prepared to be our best on Saturday. Was that considered a rant? Close? It was borderline rant? No, I can't do that anymore. They make memes of that. Did I? I did the fake. It was a fake.
Very self-aware Brian Kelly there at the end. Now, I sent this clip to someone at Florida, and they texted back. I envision him going back to his office and laughing as he watches it on replay. But I actually don't think this is I want Billy Napier to stay forever because I can beat him every year. One, they're not going to be playing Florida every year, most likely in the new SEC scheduling arrangement. It'd be twice every 4 years. Two, he did lose to Billy Napier last year. I do think he's legitimately worried about this game because he watched the film, and Brian Kelly says this earlier in that press conference. He said, you watch that film, yes, Florida made mistakes, but they were only a couple of plays away from winning the USF game pretty comfortably. So
I do take exception to one thing he said.
Okay. All right, go for it.
And that is the illusion that the results of Florida are acceptable. Like, he already has it where they want. No, he doesn't. He said they already do.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. He has it where they are a 500 team every year, and that's certainly not good enough.
And that's not good enough for Billy. So I think that's it. Like, there's ways of saying things, but when I start to try to step in on these podcasts is when people say things that aren't true. And what he said wasn't true. He does not have Florida where he wants it.
If Brian Kelly had gone 6-7, 5-7, 8-5 in the first 3 years at LSU, would he be LSU's coach right now?
I don't think that he would be. No.
Yeah, and they would have paid like $70 million to make him not LSU's coach.
Yeah.
I
mean,
I think you're right. I think they would have found the money. Like, if he put those 3 years in the books, they would have found the money.
Yeah. And, we talk about tiers of expectations in the SEC. I think Florida is beneath LSU and Alabama and Georgia in terms of what they'll tolerate, clearly.
Yes.
But there's also a limit, and what they're tolerating right now is far below even the second tier of expectation. Like, this isn't just, we're not going to win a national championship every other year like Georgia, but, you still have to be competitive, and you can't lose to South Florida, and you can't be under 500. I mean, it's just not there. And I don't care what illusion any coach is under in terms of how hard it is to coach in the SEC or how long it takes. It certainly does take time. It takes way less time now than it did 5 years ago.
I was going to say, it doesn't take time, though, really, when it's working. I mean, Florida's a good example, and I realize it's a different era of college football, but Urban Meyer won a national title in year 2. And Urban Meyer won a national title in year 3 at Ohio State. Kirby Smart was in the national title game in year 2 at Georgia. Like, it doesn't when it's the right person.
Yeah.
It doesn't take that much time.
We've talked about this on the show in the past, and I wrote a column at The Athletic about this when Mel Tucker was struggling at Michigan State. Obviously, that did not age well, but I did not foresee how his end would come. But when you sign these 10-year contracts and you're forced into patience, like USC is with Lincoln Riley, and LSU is to a certain extent with Brian Kelly and James Franklin at Penn State. The question that I have is how many coaches, and I don't even know if we can answer this because coaches got fired so quickly in the last 15 years that it's hard to play the what if game. But how many coaches have had a start like Billy Napier of 3 underwhelming seasons at a place that has won a national championship in the previous 15 years before he took over and then turned out to be a successful coach?
Yeah. I got emails this past week from somebody referencing Mike Krzyzewski at Duke. Boy, glad they didn't fire him. Like, I was in preschool when that happened. I'm old. That's not how the world works anymore. Nobody's going to get that kind of time.
How many, I don't know anything about basketball or his history. How many years did he get? I don't even know. Was it a lot?
He got 3 or 4 fairly mediocre seasons, what you would consider mediocre seasons. Okay. And then started winning really big.
Because the only example in football that we can talk about, from our era would be Dabo Swinney.
But
I think
Dabo Swinney won the ACC early. He won his ACC division in his first full year as the head coach. He was on the ropes in his second full year as head coach in 2010, and he fired his offensive coordinator. Who do you remember what that guy's name was?
I do, but I need a minute.
You shouldn't. We're talking about him right now.
Billy Napier.
Billy Napier. Yeah. So Dabo Swinney fires Billy Napier at the end of the 2010 season.
That's right.
Chad Moore, and then Clemson ascends.
But
so
wasn't Dabo's
the ACC in 2011? He didn't take that long.
Am I misremembering this? Because Dabo Swinney, like in year 4, I thought was on the hot seat.
Year 2, he was on the hot seat in year 2, 2010.
So there's no example then of coaches that got extra time that turned out to be great?
There are very few that I can think of.
Jim Harbaugh?
Jim Harbaugh was really good out of the gate. He just couldn't beat Ohio State. Yeah.
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh. I'm trying to think of coaches that broke through after being on the hot seat, but Jim Harbaugh also had 10-win seasons almost every year, didn't he?
Correct. It wasn't like it was a complete failure or a complete mediocrity. There are very few examples of this.
Yeah. And I think part of the reason why there are so few examples of it is because people were just fired. So you never really had the opportunity to, if you had a rough 2 or 3 years to start, Tennessee got into this mix, right? They had guys there for 2-3 years and they kept firing them and hiring new people. And I feel like all the hiring and firing and the churn at you.
Here's the thing about Tennessee. Tennessee's a great example of this. This is everybody, because it's not unique to the Florida message boards. This is every message board everywhere. The second you start talking about firing an underperforming coach fairly early in his tenure, now Napier's not actually early in his tenure anymore, but the second you start talking about it, is everybody's going to leave. The whole roster is going to be gone. What are you going to do then? Okay. Tennessee fires Jeremy Pruitt. Do you know what happened? Everyone left. We were like, this is going to be a 6-year reclamation project. They're never going to get it back. Josh Heupel won 10 games in year 2. When it's the right guy, it's the right guy.
So are you talking yourself into Billy being the wrong guy right now?
Talking myself into it?
Talking yourself into a place where it's unsalvageable.
It's clearly unsalvageable.
I mean, I would have said it was clearly unsalvageable last year.
I did say it. I wrote that it has to end, and then they changed their mind because they were going to fire him.
Yeah, so you're actually retroactively going to be right.
I can't take any credit for being right on this because I have been wrong. Because I did drink the Kool-Aid after they beat LSU and Ole Miss last year, thinking they had turned a corner. Remember how negative I was last offseason about Florida. And the Florida fans were mad at me. They were like, you're way too negative. You're just, you just don't believe. And I'm like, no, I just don't see how the roster's gotten any better. And then I'm taking victory laps after the Miami and Texas A&M games. And then they turn it around. I'm like, oh crap, I was wrong. But I shouldn't have doubted myself because then I became wrong by drinking the Kool-Aid, spending all offseason blowing sunshine up everybody's butt at Florida and pumping up, DJ Lagway, number 1 quarterback, all that stuff. I'm going to wind up looking really stupid for all of that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's 2 avenues of this could look like. They could, what if they beat LSU like that? And
they might. And that is what makes this game so interesting because they might. Or they might beat Miami, or they might beat Texas, or they might beat Texas A&M. What I don't see happening is them beating most of those.
Yeah. So here's the deal with this. When you wrote the column that you wrote about how it clearly is not working after they lost to A&M last year, and that you had seen enough, I actually think you could make the case where we can't take credit for it because I was on the Florida bandwagon with you in the offseason, but you could make the case that you were technically right then. Now,
but I can't take it. I can't do it because I then became wrong, and I don't mind saying credit. But But the thing is, I don't mind saying I was wrong about this. I'm gonna get a lot of this stuff wrong. It's an unpredictable sport.
Yeah, for sure. But I think the point I'm trying to make, though, isn't that you should take credit for being right initially. It's that if you think that, in today's sport at any point, if you get to that point with a coach like Billy Napier, who has been in the program for 3 years or in his third season, and you get to that point where this isn't working, very rarely, if ever, is there been an illustration of somebody being wrong about that in the long term. Like if Florida would have come out and beat USF and it was a 3-point favorite or 3-point dog and they beat LSU and then he's there long term, then you would have been wrong about that. What I'm saying is you got to that point for a reason. And when you get to that point for a reason, the mistake wasn't getting to that point. The mistake was buying back in.
Well, and that's the thing. I've said this a lot this week, and I think this is something I need to probably say whenever we see these situations, because this is not unique to Florida. We're going to see this in other places too. When somebody tells you who they are, listen to them. That's it.
So I think we unintentionally uncovered a thesis on the show, which is if you're not good by the beginning of year 3, you're not the guy. Like,
Probably
do you think
not.
the forced patience theory is stupid now?
I don't think it's stupid because, one, I'd never root for somebody to get fired. Like, here's the thing. If Billy Napier gets fired, he's going to make a bunch of money. He's like $20 million, $10 million due right away. But down the line in that staff, there's people who aren't making tons of money. And they've got to find new jobs. And they got to find new schools for their kids. And they've got to move. And, like, I don't want that to happen to anybody. So that's where I'm very conflicted on this stuff because it's going to happen. It's a competitive industry. People are going to get fired. So, but I don't ever want to feel like I'm rooting for somebody to get fired. I do feel like there's a point a lot of the time, and I probably, because I again don't want to see people get fired, probably started drinking the Kool-Aid again. But yes, there's a point everywhere in every program where you're like, yeah, we've seen enough.
Yeah,
and I don't think you have to go very far to see what you need to see.
Yeah, I think that it's funny because I was drinking Mel Tucker Kool-Aid. Like I thought, well, things are going poorly right now. But by year 6, when they still have to have him as their coach, they're going to be pretty good. And in other situations where he had a normal contract that wasn't a God contract, he would have been fired after year 3 and we never would have seen it. I'm excited to see it play out with the long term because of it. And then I start wrapping some of the forced patience cases that I was using in that column. And it was Dabo Sweeney, who we just talked about. It was Jim Harbaugh, who was very good. James Franklin is in that mix. And none of these guys were
also
bad.
James Franklin won the Big Ten in year 3.
Yeah. And it's not, that's the thing. It's forced patience to get over the hump with coaches that illustrated they could be really good. But there isn't very many examples, if any, that I can come up with a coach being very, very bad or very underneath the standard of wherever he's coaching in the first 2 or 3 years who broke through and then won a national title. Or like that's the thing about Florida. Like we always talk about, well, they have to do X, Y, and Z for him to keep his job. But ultimately, the goal at Florida is to win a national title. So even if Florida wins 9 games this year, that might give you hope. But if they won 9
not
games
good enough
year,
still, it's
still not good enough in the long term. Like, is this the person that's going to get you over the hump to win a national title, or is this a person who can go 9-3? Because going 9-3, even if they would have gone 9-3 and he saved his job, if they go 9-3 again next year, people are going to get mad again. Like that's
we just had
enough.
a massive debate about whether Kalen DeBoer might get fired for a second 9-3 season at Alabama. So that's
it's actually now you've got me like thinking about the entire theory of forced patience, and I might be back into it. It's like because I also feel this way about players. I know that there are people who break out after a redshirt year and sitting on the bench 2 or 3 years. But for the most part, if somebody's going to be truly special, like Malachi Toney, for instance, at Miami, how long did it take him to show up? How long did it take Jeremiah Smith to show up? How long did it take Ryan Smith to show up? How long did it take for Cam Coleman to show up?
Now, I will say with players, there are guys who develop and there are guys who maybe need the right situation. Or
that's more prevalent on the lines where you actually need the time physically to get up to speed. But I think like special skill position players, linebackers, like Harold Perkins, like immediately. Like how many?
I mean, the quarterbacks sometimes need time too. That's not always, but sometimes.
I think that quarterback is a good one, but also quarterbacks, in my opinion, for the most part, should never start right away. So for the quarterback,
we'll have that discussion. I think we're going to have that discussion tomorrow, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. I'll shut up.
So here's the thing with Florida, with LSU, but mostly with Florida. I wrote this in a column yesterday, and I truly believe this. A lot of Florida fans are like, why don't they do something now? You don't need to do anything now. The schedule will take care of this. The schedule is what it is. It is very hard. And either he will go on a miracle run and give you what you want and you'll keep him, or the schedule will tear him to pieces. Either way, whatever is supposed to happen is going to happen, and you'll probably have a pretty good idea by the Georgia game what's supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think the question is what's the point of keeping him? It's like, what is there in this world of roster assembly? What is there to gain by firing early? Like in the old days,
None.
there used to be something.
There's nothing.
Gain. Like if you fire him now, what aside from maybe saving some money in buyout months, which isn't significant at all in the entire course of a buyout.
Yeah, because he's getting like 75% of his remaining salary anyway.
Yeah, he's getting it anyway. So what does your team, your program have to gain by at least letting him run it out? I don't think that there's anything to lose by keeping him.
Right. And that's
because back in the day, you used to worry about like, okay, well, if you fire a coach, you want to give him as much time as possible to get a recruiting class together. And that's kind of out the window now. And it's still important,
and we'll see. We don't really know where the transfer portal timing is going to be this year because the football oversight committee just passed. They want it to be one window in January. The committee that's supposed to approve that meets in October. They may or may not approve that for this year. Like nobody knows.
That's a big boon for the podcast industry, by the way. If we can get one in January, like the Monday after the Tuesday,
and not have to do it in December when we're talking about lots of playoff games when there's only like 3 playoff games left. I think, I'm all for that.
That's the one thing the NFL figured out, right? Separating the competition from on the field and the competition.
Also, it's probably better for the coaches and the players. Everybody. The players.
Who loses?
Probably better for the coaches.
Who loses in that scenario? No one.
All right. Well, we like that idea, and not just for our own selfish purposes. But you know what we love, Ari? Modelo.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of Florida fans and LSU fans cracked a cold Modelo after those games on Saturday night because the Florida fans are just trying to, wallow in their own crapulence. And the LSU fans are like, wait, is the offense good? I don't know. But that's the sort of thing you ponder with a Modelo in your hand because Modelo is the official beer of college football. It's the perfect reward for your fandom. It's the official sponsor of the college football playoff, the place everybody's trying to get. If you're listening to this, you have been recruited, and it is time for an ice cold reward. And that reward is a lovely, lovely Modelo. Nothing like taking some time, cracking open the can, flipping open the bottle with peeling back the foil like it's a special gift, and thinking about where your team's at. If you're listening to this, it means you live and breathe football all season long, and that makes you a full-time fan, which means you deserve a Modelo. So tonight, as you think deeply about where your team's at, where your coach is at, crack a Modelo. It'll help you ruminate. All right, Ari. We got to talk about a leak. Nebraska's got leaks. Leaks. Now, Will Compton, proud Nebraska alum, co-host of Bussin' with the Boys, posted this leaked Matt Rhule halftime speech from the Akron game. Nebraska at this point was up 33-0 against Akron. And all the Nebraska fans saw me tweet about this last night and thought I was making fun of Nebraska. I was just making fun of bleeps and leaks. I love what Matt Rhule was saying here. I love this. This gives me even more confidence that Matt Rhule is going to have a Matt Rhule year 3 this year at Nebraska. So, producer River, play that clip.
Maybe I just have a different standard. I don't like them freaking moving the ball. They're dropping back at the end of the half. Like, we're on the side, as me and John are saying, they'll take a knee here. They'll run the ball. They don't fear you. They don't respect you enough yet. And if that sounds like coach speak, then you have the wrong brain. They're dropping back against our starting defense. They're cutting our own line at the end of the half. All you young guys, just go back there and chill. I want my opportunity. Some of you guys will get an opportunity right now. I told you I don't care what the score is. I told you I care what the tape looks like. Did I trip when the ball was fumbled? No, I don't care what happens in the game. I want to see what the next play is. You have one half. Defense, you have one half. If they try to drop back and throw it, and that quarterback's not on the ground, I want new guys in there rushing. I want them hit. I want them never to say our name again. You believe the fact with 43 seconds left, they just gave us the ball back. They went down 33 and they're still dropping back. They had the balls to cut you. I thought you guys get the ball, you put it down and score. You made me put the freaking red and the white in. And you guys get in, you go play. I don't care what the score is. Troy told you shutouts are precious. We almost gave them a shutout. I don't want them ever to say our name again. That's the killer instinct I asked about. Not what does my hair look like, what do I look like in the freaking mirror. I walk in here, guys in the mirror checking themselves out. Got a chance at a shutout. You guys got a chance at freaking hanging a score around here we haven't hung in a long time. We don't work hard enough to go take what we want? Go take what you want. You want to get in the game? DJ, you run your ass off on all those routes all week? Now you got a chance to get in the game, maybe. If your brother and your brothers will put them away. It's about time people say, I don't want to schedule those guys anymore. I don't want to play those guys anymore. And if my standard's too high, then leave. And if you're with me, go out there and do not, I don't want to see a smile. I don't want to see nothing silly. I want to see a bunch of guys locked in that wants to make a team quit. I don't know why he showed you guys Bronx Hill at the end of it. You know what he said to that guy after he beat the out of that biker gang? He said, look at me. I did this to you. He wasn't scared to make sure that guy knew who he was. I did this to you. When you're shaking their hand at the end of the game, they better have that look in their eye. You did it to them. It's supposed to be 33-0. It's supposed to be that score. Now what's the second half supposed to look like? I'll see you guys on the field.
I love it. Did you see the play? I mean, they're locked in. This is 33-0 against Akron. This is when everything, your attention can slip. Everybody's locked in. They closed out the shutout. He's not wrong. Shutouts are hard to do. I don't care who you're playing. This is what Nebraska has needed. And we talked about this when they beat Cincinnati. And I realize they have not played the toughest competition yet, but I don't care because look at the way they are trying to beat people. Listen to what he's saying. Make them quit. That's what Nick Saban used to say. Make his ass quit. And winning the games you're supposed to win, playing the way you're supposed to play week to week is the hardest thing to get a team to do. It is the hardest thing about a program build. If Matt Rhule has that part right, and so far it looks like he does, you should be very excited about what is coming for Nebraska. Very excited.
Yeah. I mean, I think that hunger is probably the root of all success, right? When it comes to playing college football. And, I think that keeping a high standard against a team that's not equipped to compete with you is an important step in the right direction because it trains you on how to play when you're playing teams who could beat you. Nebraska, I think, is a very interesting team. And, I've been paying attention to them a little bit closer than maybe I otherwise would because Nebraska fans hate me at the moment. And I'm really excited to see
God, they hate me because of you. Like I tweeted, I quote tweeted this, Will Compton's tweet. I quote tweeted and I said, Kirby Smart leaked speeches don't have bleeps in them. And they think that was an anti-Nebraska comment. I was just making fun of the fact that it was pretty clearly strategically leaked, which by the way, the Kirby Smart one we play all the time from halftime of the Florida game in 2021, also very strategically leaked for recruiting purposes. Like, yeah, you want people to see that. You want prospective players to see what Matt Rhule is like day to day, what he's like at halftime, what kind of program he's running. That's what you're going to get from him for real. Like, that's not the recruiting pitch. That is him for real when he is your coach. And you saw the result. And this has been the problem at Nebraska under previous administrations where they just could not get out of their own way. They could not win all the games they were supposed to win. Forget the ones that they aren't supposed to win. They couldn't win the ones they were supposed to win. Now he's got them where they can win the ones they're supposed to win and win them in dominant fashion. And when he talks about people not wanting to play you, like Nebraska, when I was a teenager, like we kept the Nebraska weight room, like what their average offensive line bench press and squat was and their average D-line offensive squat and bench press were. Like, we kept them on a sign over our weight room because Nebraska was the standard, period. They kicked everyone's ass. And everybody who played them knew they were going to get their ass kicked. And that's what Matt Rhule's trying to bring back. And you have to, you can't do that to Michigan before you do that to Akron.
I'm looking at their schedule right now because a lot of times too, when you see 68-0, it's like, okay, well, whatever, who cares? Like, it's like, I almost sometimes feel like the bigger the score gets, the less credible the win is, because it's just, it's the team you're playing is so overmatched that like you can't draw anything from it. But I'm looking back and I'm already at like 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to find the last time Nebraska won a game like this.
You seeing what I'm saying here? Exactly.
There's not. 2016 they beat Wyoming 52-17, but there isn't a lot of like 68-0. There's none of it. And they had 48-9 in 2015 against South Alabama. McNeese State 31-24 in 2014. It's been over a decade.
I mean, I embedded with the Troy team that went up there and beat them.
The last time
Frost's first year.
The last time they hung a score like this that I can see, and it wasn't a shutout, was against Idaho State in 2012 when they won 73-7. So that's a 13-year period, and they've played some overmatched teams in the last 13 years, and it didn't happen that way. So, when you're talking about Georgia or Alabama, like what Alabama did to Louisiana Tech. Wait, no, that wasn't Louisiana Tech. Who did they play? Doesn't matter what they did to whoever they played. Louisiana Monroe. Sorry, Louisiana Tech was LSU, right?
Yes. And that was much closer than the home team wanted. Yeah.
It doesn't really register because you see that from those teams all the time. Like, I didn't really think twice about this until you brought this up, but I think that is a nice step in the right direction. And, there's a lot of people out there that are holding on to me. Like, when we instantly reacted to Nebraska's season opening win against Cincinnati, I made a comment on this show about how, Dylan Raiola may not be the sensational player that we thought he could be coming out, and they're holding on to that pretty hard. So, and I don't know if you have changed your mind about that. I don't know that I have.
I don't know that it matters. I think he has the capacity to be a good college quarterback, which that's what you need.
I think when people have it in their heads that you don't like them, they like grasp at every single thing that you say and try to make it worse. Like, I have some sort of axe to grind against Nebraska. Like,
here's the thing: we're not going to come out and be like, you guys are going to win the national title this year, because we don't think that's true, and I don't think you do either.
We don't do that. So, we try. Like, if you listen to the show, I hope the thing that you can appreciate about us is that we're not always going to be right. We're certainly not always going to be wrong, because we're right about a lot of things. But we're just doing the best that we can to give you real analysis of what we see. And whether or not you agree with that, that's fine. But I'm looking at Nebraska's schedule right now, and there isn't a single team that I don't think they can beat until they go on the road to November 22nd. And that's at Penn State, Houston Christian, Michigan, Michigan State, Maryland, Minnesota, Northwestern, even USC. That's looked really good. UCLA. If you're actually like, instead of like yelling at us, you know what? Yell at us. It's fine. I'd rather you yell at us than ignore us. But like the thought process here of like, Andy, if you're about it and Raiola's a god and you guys go freaking do it now. Like, this is a time to do it.
But back to my point of they can now win the games they're supposed to win. Let's look at the schedule again. Which of these games would you say they are supposed to win? I'm not even going to say Michigan, but I think they can beat Michigan. In fact, we'll see how the picks go next week, but I'm very much leaning toward picking Nebraska to beat Michigan. Michigan State, they should beat. Maryland, they should beat. Minnesota's going to be tough, but I think they should beat them. Now, that's on the road. They should beat Northwestern. Don't know about USC yet. USC looks awfully good this season. They should beat UCLA. I think they should beat Iowa based on what we've seen from Iowa so far this season. So what does that make your record? I think I just cooked up a 9-3 season, and there are games in there that you could still win because they're kind of toss-ups.
Like, you might have cooked up a playoff scenario if they win one of the toss-ups.
Correct. And that is what you want. That is what you hoped for when you hired Matt Rhule. And what I am saying is what you saw in that speech is Matt Rhule giving you exactly what you hired him for, exactly what you want. And that is, You want to raise the floor first, and then you raise the ceiling. And he has raised the floor for Nebraska. And that is how you raise the floor. You create a standard and you stick to it. It's the same stuff we were talking about with Alabama last week. Now, granted, that loss to Florida State is maybe it's an anomaly. We don't know. But the difference between the Nick Saban teams and the Kalen DeBoer teams is that the Nick Saban teams didn't lose games they weren't supposed to lose. They played to a standard, and it was them against them. It was not them against the opponent. What you saw in that locker room from Matt Rhule and from the Cornhuskers was them against them. Was Matt Rhule saying, starters, kick their ass enough that I can put the backups in. Backups, you're working your asses off at practice. You want an opportunity? Now's your opportunity. Go take advantage of it. Don't screw up the shutout for us. Like, that's how you do that. That's how you do it.
Yeah. And for all of you who still have it in your head that, like, we are anti-Nebraska, go watch videos from last year when Raiola committed. Go read columns, even back at The Athletic. I was like, basically had a corn husk tattooed on my chest when he flipped from Georgia. I wrote an entire column about how amazing it is for like your contrived viewpoint. Like, I think if Nebraska made the playoff, it would be freaking awesome. It would be awesome. And
now, speaking of Georgia,
guy. I love that guy.
Here's why you don't bleep the leaked audio, because the original leaked Kirby Smart audio, not bleeped. We bleeped it because we didn't want the E on the show. Here's the bleeped version.
Trust your preparation. Yo is prepared for this for 365 days. I think about that locker room. Think about getting our opportunity. All you went through this week to get ready for this game. Now is when you pay the price. You go out there with energy, enthusiasm. Hey, guys, ain't nobody in this room should be cautious. Ain't nobody in this room should be nervous about. Go out here. Don't think about scoreboard. Don't think about. You think about knocking. Did you hear what Box said on Monday? When I sat I wanted to right then. Tore out here. 2 years. Pride and joy tells me guys up. You go play the right way. You play the right way. You knock. You stay out. You tackle the ball. It's easy. Look at the right. Put on offense and kick special teams, guys. It's about who we are. I believe in you. Let's go.
Can't even hear what you're saying.
I think that was a pregame speech. There's a halftime speech from Florida Georgia in 21, and this is equally profane. Like, one, he strings so many cuss words together that the beeps just keep going. But yeah, that's why you don't bleep your leaked video. Just, put it out there. But that said,
the one thing I want you to bring up to me, Andy, or help me with. He said something at the end of the video, and I've watched it 3 times now, and I can't pick up on it. There's something about like hurting somebody and then saying you're the person.
Matt Rhule. He's talking about a scene from A Bronx Tale.
Okay, A Bronx Tale. That's right. Okay, yeah, the biker gang. Okay, it's coming now. Okay, got it. Like, yeah, who did it?
Hey, Matt Rhule is a cinephile. Like, he's watched some good movies, and I think he's got some good examples. Yeah, as far as that goes.
They don't make good movies anymore.
This is another topic for another day. But yes, Nebraska fans, be very excited. Houston Christian coming to town this week. You're probably going to need an equally rousing halftime speech because Nebraska should be mowing them down if you're playing to the standard. And then, of course, Michigan next week, and then it gets really fun. So let's see what happens. Ari, we got to talk about Rhoback. I am wearing my Hezzy hoodie right now. You can get Nebraska hoodies. You can get Michigan hoodies. Rhoback has everything. Now, I don't know that the Florida folks are wearing them as prominently this week, but this is the Florida Hezzy hoodie that they sent me. It is spectacular. This is the most comfortable garment in the world. And there's the Nebraska one right there. Look at that. That is beautiful. Oh, yeah. RHOBACK.com, Rhoback.com, hoodies, polos, quarter zips, shorts, joggers, you name it. Use the code Andy for 20% off your first order. Rhoback.com, RHOBACK. Use the code Andy for 20% off your first order. Look at that. Look at that.
We got to get River that Tennessee one, the black one with the power tees.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we got to get River. Does River have that?
Not yet, but his
When's
birthday's
his
coming up.
When's his birthday?
Same as your daughter's and mine.
That's right. I forgot about that. Okay. Well, I'll maybe I'll get it for him for his birthday. We'll see.
All right. So I am, I don't know. Can we show the Nebraska one again? That one's awesome too. Look at that. That's perfect right there.
Yeah. The material is so soft that you can't even try to explain it. You just have to touch it.
That's outstanding. And so if you want to watch your Matt Rhule halftime speeches and rep the Cornhuskers, that is the way to do it right there. Rhoback.com, code Andy, 20% off your first order. Ari, let us move to a former rival of Nebraska. They're not in the same conference anymore, but Colorado with a very interesting situation at quarterback. So Pete Thamel from ESPN reports that Ryan Staub is going to be the starting quarterback at Colorado when they play Houston on Friday night to open Big 12 play. And we saw this play out during the Delaware game, which shockingly was on Big Fox because I know Deion Sanders sells, but I don't think they had a lot to choose from that day for Fox. But this was very interesting to watch because you saw Caden Salter start that game. You saw Julian Lewis, the highly touted freshman, come into that game. And then Ryan Staub came into that game. So everybody kind of got an equal shot against a similar opponent. And what Ryan Staub did, there's no guarantee that it translates against a Big 12 defense, but he looked awesome. He looked spectacular. And this is a guy who's been on the roster. He came in for Shedeur for a period in 2023. There was a game Shedeur got knocked out of.
He played
the Utah game. Yeah. And Ryan Staub played it. And so he's been on the roster the entire time. So Deion Sanders knows what he can do, understands him very well. And you saw the way they structured the playing time for this game. So how did it work, Ari? It was a couple series each.
So Deion Sanders said that after the Georgia Tech game that he preyed on the quarterback scenario. And like, if you were following Colorado, your thought process would be that there were two people in that prayer, right? Like,
right.
Yeah. Caden Salter, the Liberty transfer who, was presumably here to start for the year while Juju Lewis developed. And the other one obviously is Juju Lewis. I don't think that anybody thought, myself included, that Ryan Staub was a part of the equation, but basically what Deion Sanders said he decided to do, or what he landed on, was to start from the beginning, give all three of those guys multiple possessions, and to let the tape tell the story. And I think Caden Salter looked, fine. Like, there's nothing spectacular. They were up, I believe, 10-7 when they pulled him out. Then they put in Juju Lewis, who looked like a freshman, 2 for 4 for 8 yards. He was sacked once, I believe. It wasn't like what you were hoping it would look like. Then they put Staub in, and then by the time Staub came out, it was 31-7. So he threw a long touchdown pass. I think it was a 75-yard touchdown pass. Looked really, really good, was explosive. People were freaking out about it. Then after the game,
got the ball out on time. I want to point that out. Got the ball out in a very timely fashion.
After the game, when they were interviewing, that 71-yard pass to Sincere Brown was like really, really nice throw. And Brown was wide open, but he put it right on the money, got it out on time. They were interviewing Staub with Deion Sanders on the field for the post-game television interview. And Staub said he had a dream for why he didn't transfer. They said, why didn't you transfer? You could have left multiple times. Like, why are you still here? You weren't part of the plans, or didn't seem like you were part of the plans. He said, I don't know. I had a dream. And I enjoy playing for Deion. And then Deion interrupted and said, yeah, he's like Martin Luther Staub is what he called him.
Oh my God.
I don't know if you call that. Yeah. And he said it again in his post-game news conference. But I thought that this was really, really cool because here's the thing. We were at Big 12 Media Days in Frisco a few months ago, and Juju Lewis showed up wearing a $140,000 watch. Okay.
Right.
It was a AP Royal Oak. And I thought that was the coulest thing in the world.
Audemars Piguet.
Yes.
Sorry.
And you pronounced it properly. I'm proud of you. You're not into luxury items.
I'm not.
I know more about luxury items than you do, and that is the only thing.
I'm into lift kits.
Yeah, you are. You're the truck lifted up guy. You know, you want your truck like facing the hood of the
No, not squatted. Squatting's dumb. I don't
I
live
want
in
you to
Myrtle
squat
Beach.
your truck. That's all I want.
I'm not a 23-year-old who lives in Myrtle Beach.
Have you seen those memes that say, I'm not going to tell anybody if at the lottery, but there will be signs. Yours will be a squatted truck.
Yeah, no,
but
never.
Somebody hit the lottery, by the way. I don't know if you saw that. A few people.
I did. 2 people, but let's continue with Caden Salter and his watch. Or no, Juju Lewis and his watch.
Yeah,
Sorry.
but what I was going to get at, Andy, is I thought it was cool that if you're going to go get out a 5-star prospect or a high-end 4-star, and that's the person that's going to replace Shedeur Sanders, and you want him to continue on what we know of Colorado, which is flashy, loud, exciting, and interesting, then you bring that person to Big 12 Media Day, and it isn't a typical succession plan the way that you would see at other places. In my time covering all these media days, I think you can count on, one hand or, at most 2, how many true freshmen show up to those things. And I thought that was like a cool thing for Colorado to sell to future players to bring. And I think that there's this notion from everybody outside, including myself at times, that Colorado is going to be loud and flashy and that they're going to do things in a typical way, and that we view Colorado's entire roster through that prism. We view it through the Travis Hunter prism, the Shedeur Sanders prism, the prism of excitement, the prism of fame. And I think that we lose track of the fact that Colorado's roster, at least 2 years ago, was very transient. There are a lot of players on this team from diverse backgrounds. And if you look at how many players Colorado brought in over the course of the past 2 or 3 years through the portal, 85% of those players are anonymous. People don't know who they are. You know who Shedeur Sanders is. You know who Travis Hunter is. But if you go ask the regular college football fan who their outside linebacker is that transferred from, God knows where, they don't know. And then I thought it was really special to see a player who initially committed to Colorado under Carl Durrell, which you would think would be completely non-existent on this roster.
Yeah, and basically, I mean, Deion, when he got there, said most of y'all aren't going to be here.
And
which includes the guys who committed to Durrell.
A person who committed to Durrell at the quarterback position between Shedeur Sanders and Juju Lewis and Caden Salter would have every reason in the world to leave. Why would you stay there? You're not of the culture that they are making because you were there in the losing culture beforehand. You're young. You think you can play. Why wouldn't you go to a place that more illustrates what? And there are so many players on this roster that did not leave, or players that came in anonymously who have put in work behind the scenes and then allowed, once he got the opportunity and he shined in the opportunity. I thought it's cool that the atypical guy that you aren't talking about all offseason is the person that's starting on Saturday. And I think that's a lot about Deion.
Can I tell you what Deion did that reminds me of Jim Harbaugh a little bit?
What's that?
So do you remember Jim Harbaugh going into the 2022 season? So they win the national title in 2023. This is the season before. 2021 is when they break through and they win the Big Ten. Cade McNamara was their starter in 2021. J.J. McCarthy was a true freshman. Going into the 2022 season, remember, Harbaugh splits up. They had a couple kind of early season, basically preseason games against overmatched opponents. And Harbaugh splits it up. He's like, I'm going to give McNamara this game, and I'm going to give McCarthy this game. And then for game 3, we'll kind of figure it out based on who performed well in game 1 and game 2. That was Harbaugh giving the guy who started for a Big Ten title team a chance, but he knew what was going to happen. He knew that when J.J. McCarthy started, it was going to look completely different. And there's a reason J.J. McCarthy won a game on Monday Night Football as a first-round draft pick against the Bears last night for the Vikings. And Cade McNamara plays for East Tennessee State now. These are reasons, and Jim Harbaugh knew this. I think Deion Sanders, now he had a different situation because they opened with Georgia Tech, and then they have this Big 12 opener against Houston on a Friday night this week. So the Delaware game is really their only chance to experiment. I think Deion Sanders knew what we were going to see. I think he structured it that way on purpose. I think he did it in that order on purpose. And I think he knew what was going to happen because he sees it. He'd seen enough of it at practice to know what was going to happen.
And I don't know what this means for the long term. Pete Thamel reported on Tuesday, as we were recording this show, that Staub is expected to start for Colorado on Friday night against Houston. He has yet to speak with the media. I think he's scheduled to speak on Tuesday. He will have spoken, I think, by the time this comes out. We're not going to say that he's 100% the starter. Dion could say that, more than one are going to play still. But I think it's pretty evident from what I saw on Saturday that Juju just might not be ready to play as much as we thought he would. And
Dion made that very clear after the game. He said there's a lot of stuff, and he doesn't want to throw him in earlier than he needs to, and then
you don't want to couch him. Yeah, you don't want to get, and I get it. But maybe that doesn't mean that he's done playing or that he won't continue to develop in games if and when those opportunities present themselves for Colorado. But the thing that I think is most interesting here is, like, what do you do with Caden Salter, right? Like, and this is a player that we knew or have seen play at a very high level. But the biggest takeaway, more than anything, Andy, is that if this situation were happening anywhere else, this might be a footnote at the end of a show, if that even. And the thing that makes it so interesting about Colorado is that Colorado is a program that is filled with characters. You have Deion Sanders, the most famous head coach maybe ever. You have Caden Salter, the high-level transfer that played at Liberty, who was effective during an undefeated season for another team, who was supposed to start this year and kind of hand the reins over to the next, great quarterback or the next Colorado quarterback.
Yeah, well, and you have Julian Lewis, who on his recruiting visit has Shedeur Sanders handing him the keys in a photo.
Right.
A symbolic gesture.
And like, who doesn't want to, if college football is an entertainment product, and I was trying to explain this to somebody over the weekend, it's like college football is more like pro wrestling than it is like the NFL, because the storylines that happen off the field are so bizarre and so out of left field. You don't even really think about it. And honestly, I hadn't thought at all about Ryan Staub for 2 years. I didn't even consider that this was a possibility. So the fact that we are in this position now makes it, I don't know that Colorado is going to go win the Big 12. We've made fools of ourselves in the past, betting against them, and, maybe they'll surprise us again and be there. Because you know what, man? I know that Georgia Tech spotted them a bunch of turnovers at the beginning of that game, but Colorado could have, maybe even should have won that game. And beating Georgia Tech in an opener would have been a hell of a way to start your season. Like, maybe they'll surprise us. But, like, what if Ryan Staub is just awesome? What if he's just awesome for the rest of the year, and that's how they found their guy?
It's entirely possible.
Made a joke at the end of the call. It's like, somebody, his time is now. Get him a diamond-covered Casio.
I think he should wear a G-Shock just for fun.
Some G-Shocks are incredibly expensive. Like, there's some rare ones out there.
I know they've become a thing now, but just get the normal cheap G-Shock and just like run for a touchdown and hold it up. Be like, this can take a pounding.
Is the G-Shock the official watch of college football coaches?
And I don't know.
Not like officially, but like a lot of coaches wear it, don't they?
I have not noticed that. I don't pay attention to watches as much as you do, but I will keep an eye on that. I don't know.
Dude, there's an $8,000 G-Shock round cut diamond prong cased watch for sale at Trax NYC, which is a diamond dealer in New York City, for $9,000. If you want to go get that for him, like, that would be.
I think he'd do well with the $100 one. I think that's more the style. So, Ari, this game is going to be very interesting. Colorado playing at Houston Friday night. This spices up the Friday night slate for sure, with Staub potentially starting for Colorado at Houston. Connor Wegman, former Texas A&M quarterback, is now Houston's quarterback. The Cougars trying to, in their new conference, trying to establish a foothold. They're 2-0. They've beaten Stephen F. Austin and Rice, but now conference play begins and we see what happens. So another interesting piece of this game that came up on Tuesday. Tuesday morning, the Big 12 sends out an announcement that the crew that worked the Kansas-Missouri game. So it was at Missouri, an SEC school, but Kansas is the Big 12 school. Typically in a non-conference game, the visiting team, their conference brings the officials. So these were Big 12 officials working the Kansas-Missouri game. They were supposed to work this Colorado-Houston game, and they are not at this point. And we know that because the release said that they were scheduled to work a game on Friday night, which I believe this is the only game involving Big 12 teams on Friday
Arizona
night.
and Kansas State are playing on Friday night.
Oh, it could have been Arizona K-State. Okay, yeah. So we don't know if it's Arizona K-State or this game, but one of those games They're not working. And I wanted to get your take on this. So I'll tell you what happened. So basically, they are suspending the crew for missing one call in particular. It wasn't even a call. The first touchdown of the game, Missouri scores a touchdown. The extra point gets blocked. There was an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on Missouri somewhere in there. I can't remember exactly where, but it required Missouri to kick off from the 20. So Eli Drinkwitz sends out the punter to do the kick, which if you give up a safety, you see that all the time, where a team that gives up a safety, instead of doing a standard kickoff from the 20, they'll punt from the 20. But because this wasn't a safety, this was a touchdown. And so apparently by rule, you got to kick off in that instance. Missouri punted, officials didn't notice nothing. They didn't do anything. And so they get dinged for that. Now, I don't think it was just that. I was corresponding with somebody at Missouri on Tuesday, and they said, hey, this is the worst. This was one of the worst officiated games I've ever seen. It was called badly both directions. And so this feels like more of a cumulative punishment, but that was the one thing they could say, you definitely screwed this up.
Yeah. I mean, I watched the game, but, you know, that's the one hard thing when you have 9 games going at once. Like, it's hard to really lock in. I don't remember feeling like, wow, there are a lot of bad calls in this game. That's not to say that there weren't, but there was no like overt obvious one outside of that punt where it's like that could have impacted the result of the game that I can recall.
Well, and that didn't impact the result of the game. It's just, I think that's the one clear thing they missed that the Big 12 could get them on. But I'm more interested in what you think about this public reprimand, public discipline, because it's not something we've seen from the other conferences. The SEC, like when I posted this morning, most of the responses were tagging Greg Sankey saying, how come you don't do this in the SEC?
Yeah.
And they do discipline officials. They just don't make it public.
I mean, there's 2 schools of thought on this, which is publicly reprimanding an official then undermines their credibility moving forward. And the last thing that you would want is officials' credibility to be undermined, right? I mean, there was a ref in basketball, and you know, and I've never been in who's the announcer or who are the refs of this game person, but in basketball, it's far more prevalent because of fouls.
Well, in college basketball, everybody knows TV Teddy Valentine, everybody knows Doug Shows. Like, there are minor celebrities in the sport,
and that's what I was getting at. Like Ted Valentine, there was Ed Hightower, I think was another one. There are these refs that
Ed Hightower was an NBA guy, right?
No, I thought he was or
maybe he's
a college guy. Yeah. Okay. Just from my brief 3-year stint covering basketball, these were names of like, oh, well, Valentine's.
Yeah, Hightower is a college. Oh, I remember Ed Hightower. Okay.
Yeah,
now I see his picture.
Was he theatrical with some of the calls that he made? And people are like, he was trying to make it seem like the show was about him.
Well, that's definitely Ted Valentine.
That's Valentine. I'm getting confused.
Ted Valentine never met a charge that he couldn't slide like 4 feet across the court to demonstrate.
But at the same time, every single call that they make as a result of the refs, like, I think it's better if the refs are anonymous. I think it's better if you don't know where they're from or who they are. The less recognizable, like, recognition you give these people, the less that people can come up with conspiracy theories and why they're screwing their favorite teams.
Right.
So the public reprimand, I think, is like good for the sake of like, hey, we have a standard that we're going to uphold and you need to do it this way. But if those refs ever come back and their names get out there, then every single time they ref a game moving forward, you're going to have a swath of fans.
Well, their names are out there, so you're going to get it.
Yeah.
But I do think there needs to be some accountability. If you feel like the game was refereed poorly or officiated poorly, like, you have to do something. And I will tell you, this is the hardest job in the world. Like, I have the ultimate sympathy for the officials because they have chosen a very difficult job. There's no way anybody's ever satisfied. You just get yelled at the whole time. But that said, you've accepted it. And so you need to do the best job you can. And if you do make egregious mistakes, punishment for those should be accepted. I mean, like, people make mistakes. I think people are forgiving of mistakes. And I was trying to remember, because I did remember once in the SEC in the last 20 years this happening, and it happened in 2009. There was a public reprimand of a crew in the SEC, and it was a crew that there was a Florida-Arkansas game, and there was a really bad unnecessary roughness call away from the ball that Urban Meyer just went insane over. And because that crew had also been involved in a controversial call that was wrong a few weeks earlier, Mike Slive, who was then commissioner of the SEC, publicly reprimanded them and suspended them. But I haven't really seen that much in any of the other leagues since then. It's not been a really common thing.
The thing that we have to acknowledge, too, is how much replay has assisted in their jobs. There are 2 penalties now that are really, really hard, right? And it's pass interference, I think, and targeting. And those are like secondary based because they're subjective to a certain extent. But like game deciding fumbles, or was that a catch? Did they get their feet down? Like all the hardest things that are hard to see, like in the moment. Because, you know, sometimes when you're watching the replay, we don't even know if it's a catch after the replay, like let alone doing it in person.
You and I saw that twice in games in person. We saw that in the LSU Clemson game with Barry and Brown, and we saw it again with Nick Harbor in the South Carolina Virginia Tech game, where we're both like, "Hey, that's a touchdown!" Oh wait,
I mean, I don't remember. You were a little bit older than me and watching football before, but like, how many times were games decided in 1996 because a fumble wasn't called a fumble when it clearly was, or vice versa?
Oh yeah,
The fact that you get to at least get turnovers and touchdowns correct, I think is a huge deal. Now,
I will point out holding is the other one that they can still make. Like in the Monday Night Football game between the Bears and the Vikings, there was a terrible holding call where the defensive lineman fell down, offensive lineman falls on top of him because that's what you're supposed to do, and they called holding. It's not holding when you do that. So
like the no call holding and the calls of holding are difficult. I think it's a way worse look when they miss a hold and they just don't see it than it is like over calling it. But it is, to me, like I don't really ever feel, it's very rare that I feel that a game has been decided by a call, and I used to think that was more common. So replay has certainly helped, but you know, I can't stand when people blame refs when something happens, unless it's like completely like that Saints call that happened in the playoffs like 8 years ago. You remember that call? Like, there's the pass interference call, but like
the one I can think of in college football, the last one I feel like really did affect the outcome of the game was that Fiesta Bowl you and I covered together between Clemson and Ohio State. There was a targeting call that
Bosa
changed the entire tone of the game. Not on Bosa. It was on a corner. It was on their nickel corner. And the guy from Jackson.
That Fiesta Bowl, Bosa got removed from another Fiesta Bowl for targeting.
No, but that one did feel like it changed the whole game.
Yeah, you wrote a story about it. Wasn't that your whole story after the game was over?
It was, because I talked to Steve Shaw, who is the secretary editor, rules editor for all of college football now, and he explained the call very well to me. I really appreciated him taking the time to explain the call. And it was one of those situations where they called it correctly by the letter of the rule, but it was an egregious thing that it affected the game because there clearly was no intent to harm. There clearly was no intent to target. And it was a frustrating situation.
It's funny because later in the game, wasn't there a catch like that a Clemson receiver got in the flat that looked like a fumble, and then they call like he. There was another controversial call in that game too that people say should have been a scoop and score and was a rule.
The column I wrote off that game was more a criticism of the targeting rule itself. That there needed to be some variation in it so that you didn't just toss a guy out of a game and completely change a game for a bad reason.
And it kind of happened at the end of the Baylor SMU game too. Did you see this one?
I did not see that one.
Sawyer Robertson was running late in the game. Or was it Sawyer Roberts? No, SMU was Kevin Jennings was running late in the game. One of the quarterbacks was, and they were trying to go get into field goal range as time expired. And the quarterback slid at the very last second, like was in the middle, like ran through the middle of the offensive line, up the middle of the field. And a player dove at him and put his head down a little bit and ended up hitting his helmet against the quarterback's helmet. And they called targeting initially. And it's like, how is it targeting if somebody's just trying to make a regular tackle and then someone else's helmet appears at the last second because they slid? I think there needs to be a rule about how late a quarterback can slide too, or like at least a good faith attempt to try to discern the intent of the defender, because sometimes the defender, if they're already on their way to make a tackle or to try to bring somebody down,
they can't control it. They're already in the air. Yeah.
And the refs actually took targeting off the board and made the right decision there. Targeting is very difficult because there's multiple ways of doing it. There's the big hit way. There's the crown of the helmet way. There's the time in the play, or unnecessary. Like, there's so many different factors that play into it. I feel like we're just trained now that anytime somebody lays a big hit, it's a penalty, and it's like that's not always true either. So, but also at the same time, understanding that safety and the well-being of the players is of utmost importance as well. So it's like a very tricky topic, because I feel like there's a need for targeting, but you also don't want to ruin the game.
Yeah, so, if you go back and watch games from the 90s, the headhunting was really bad. Like, you really don't want to go back to that. So there's a happy medium. I think they're still trying to work on it. And again, I don't ever think the refs are trying to do anything wrong. Ever. I think they're trying to do the best they can.
Anytime there's subjectivity, the team's fans on the wrong side of the call are going to exploit the middle ground there. They're not going to ever, that's a right call. Of course they're going to freak out. But I think for the most part, the games, you have to go back 4 years to go back to a game. And I believe that penalty that you wrote about happened in the second quarter.
It did. It didn't lose Ohio State the game, but it changed the game completely.
It changed the game for sure. Yeah.
So, well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. So, one of those two Big 12 games on Friday night, there will be a different crew than there were supposed to be. I don't know. I don't know if we'll find out who was supposed to be doing what, but it will be different. We'll see if the Big 12 does this more going forward, because they've gotten a fairly positive reaction from it. So I'll be interested to see what Brett Yormark and company do with this going forward, because I didn't expect it to come out today. And, I think everybody in the other leagues probably looking at it like, oh, wow, they didn't, the world didn't end when they said the refs messed up.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do that every once in a while. I don't know. I don't know how everybody's going to respond to this, because, again, everybody has very different ideas about how that's supposed to work. But tomorrow, Ari, we're going to have some fun with one of the newest features at On3. By the way, if you're not already subscribed to On3, now is the best time ever. We just landed Chris Lowe. We got more big news coming next week.
We do?
Oh, yeah.
Will you call me when this is over?
Exactly. Yes, I'll fill you in. But we have more big news coming next week. So join On3 for $1 for your first week and get access to The Athletic for an entire year. So you get On3 and The Athletic, two places that have employed us. And so the new feature at On3, Ari, that I love, that I am so excited about, is the Megaboard. So it is essentially the greatest hits of all the message boards. So when you belong to On3, so let's say you're an LSU fan and you have a membership to the Bengal Tiger, or you're a Michigan fan and you have a membership to the Wolverine, you have access to everybody's message board. Like, you can read everybody's premium message boards, and it's so much fun, because it can feel like behind enemy line stuff. Or if you're just curious about, oh, is this fan base melting down, you can go read exactly how they're melting down. So what the Megaboard does is it creates the best of all of those boards. It's very similar to if you use Reddit a lot. When you open Reddit, you get this curated page of things it thinks you're going to find interesting, and it's really similar to Reddit, just without the "am I overreacting" and the crazy text from whoever somebody's first date was. Like, you don't get a lot of crazy screenshot texts on the Megaboard at On3. What you do get is really good college football discussion, great meltdowns, people just going berserk over things. It's awesome. So join On3, $1 for your first week, get a full year of The Athletic in the process, and you can watch the Megaboard. And I'm telling you, I'm on this thing all day. It is incredible. And so tomorrow, Ari, what we're going to do is we are going to grab the juiciest topics from the Megaboard. And I've already got a few hand selected. I'm very excited about it, because it's interesting. There's a good mix in there. Some of them are people freaking out because their team lost.
Which is
some of them. Yeah, those are unbelievable. But some of them are really good substantive discussions. Like, I'll give you an example. I think we're going to use this one unless something else comes up and trumps it. But there's a great discussion on the Letterman Row message board. So Letterman Row is our Ohio State site. A really interesting discussion of Bryce Underwood. It is not what you think it is. It is not just Ohio State fans trashing a Michigan player. It is Ohio State fans having a legitimate, very intelligent discussion about a Michigan player that I think actually is a great wider national discussion. So we will look at that. I think there's some good South Carolina Vandy stuff. We need to do a little South Carolina Vandy mini preview anyway, because I think that's going to be a really fun game. But yeah, we're going to the Megaboard. We need a name for it. We thought about Megaboard Madness, Message Board Madness, something that doesn't steal from March Madness. Keyboard Cowboys was one we threw around there.
I like Keyboard Cowboys.
If you guys have a good idea for the name of this segment, because I think it's going to be something we do every week, hit us up. Also, for Thursday's show, Dear Andy, Dear Ari, hit us up with your questions. You want to find us? I'm at andystapleson3@gmail.com. Ari is at ari.wasserman@on3.com. You can find us on social media. I'm at Andy_Staples on Twitter and Instagram. Ari is at Ari Wasserman on Twitter and Instagram. Ask us your questions. They will be answered on Thursday's show. But if you got a suggestion for that segment, for that name, I'm bad at names, terrible at names. You guys are very smart, and I trust you. I think you can come up with something, because I do think this is going to become one of the staples, pun intended, of the show, because our message boards are freaking awesome, and now we have a great way to compile the best of them together. So again,
and
another
so many
reason
people have made so much hay off of like screenshotting message board posts on Twitter, and it's like it's our message board.
Well, and I'll take people behind the curtain.
Yeah,
we weren't sure at first, because we don't ever want people to think we're making fun of our own customers. We don't want you guys to think we're making fun of you, who are dedicated and, give us money and, are part of our community. We don't want to make fun of you. So if you're looking for, this guy's stupid because he wrote this on the message board, that's not going to be what we're doing. We're not doing it. There will be plenty of people for that.
We did have one post on the Alabama site where somebody blamed Nick Saban for ruining college football after
that was pretty funny.
That was pretty funny.
And I will say, I think the other Bama Online members policed that one pretty well. Nobody had to come in and make fun.
And it's just an interesting time to come up with a thought that Nick Saban's to blame for the demise of the sport right after you lost to Florida State.
Yeah,
it is. There are a lot of really good discussions, and I'm excited to sink my teeth into it.
But I love this idea. When we heard before it launched what it was going to be, I was like, we have the smartest people in the world working for this company. This is amazing. This is what I've been looking for my entire life.
Yeah, we are really, really into college football, and the people who run our company are so much into it too. So deep into the weeds. So it seems like we're all kind of working in the same team here, and I'm excited to get it. And I haven't even read that Bryce Underwood discussion yet. I need to get into that.
So good. I texted it to you and River. I'm telling you right now, even if we don't get to it on the show, folks who are in the audience who are on 3 members, just go to the Megaboard and look for that Bryce Underwood discussion from Letterman Row. It is fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Also, speaking of subscriptions, here's one that won't cost you a dime. Subscribe to the On3 Sports YouTube page so you know when we are going live, which is after games on Saturdays and when there's big news, and so that we get new shows. And you know about the new shows, and you get the push notifications when JD Piquel has an awesome video or when we have something that you want to see. So subscribe to the On3 Sports YouTube channel. Subscribe to this show on your favorite podcast platform and never miss an episode. If it's on podcast, you don't even have to look at us. It's amazing. Ari, I'm going to read the Megaboard now because I'm going to say it's to pick topics for tomorrow's show, but it's really because it's what I would have been doing anyway. We love you. Talk to you tomorrow.